What is up, guys? My name is Lex. Welcome back to the vlog. We've been here in Austin, Texas, playing at the lodge all week. It's been some crazy action, and today is going to be our last poker session here. But before we get started in this session, I have two crazy hands I got to tell you guys about. First hand is from a Wednesday night session I played here at the lodge. We're playing 2, 5, 10. Button opens up the action to $35 with about a $4,000 stack. Big blind calls. I look down at ace, queen offsuit in the straddle. Decide to 3-bet here to $210. I slightly have the button covered. He decides to make the call, and the big blind calls as well, so we're 3 ways to the flop. Ace, 10, 3, 2 hearts. We flop top pair, queen kicker. I lead out for $225. Looking back, I think I should be going around $300 to $350 on this board. The button very quickly calls, and the big blind folds. So we're heads up to the turn, which is the 7 of diamonds. Now bringing 2 flush draws on the board. I settle on a bet of $700. I think there's so many hands I can get value from. Weaker aces, flush draws, straight draws, combo draws, pair, and flush draw. My opponent thinks for about 5 seconds and makes the snap call, so we're going to the river in almost a $2,500 pot here. It comes out a 4 of diamonds. Backdoor flush gets there. I go back and forth whether I want to bet this card or check, and ultimately I decide to check. The action is now over on the button with a little less than $3,000 in his stack. He thinks for about 5 seconds and jams all in for about $2,900, facing this bet on the river with a single pair and a 3-bet pot. It is pretty nasty. I go into the tank for literally 3 minutes trying to figure out what I want to do. I'm leaning towards a fold. Then I think to myself, I have to call. People try to bluff me so much in Texas, I keep making the wrong decision. I'm trying to think of what hands that he would be doing this with. I guess he could have the backdoor nut flush with like ace jack of diamonds, maybe ace 8 of diamonds, something like that. But would he really go all in on the river with the nuts? After 4 minutes of thinking, I actually call the clock on myself. The time is running out, and I'm thinking to myself, there's just no way I can fold to this guy. He's down a bunch of money on this session. He is capable of bluffing, so I decide to stick in the call, and he shows ace jack for top pair jack kicker. I show ace queen for top pair queen kicker. We take down over a $8,000 pot. We end up profiting $5,000 on this session on a Wednesday night. Fast forward a couple days later to Saturday night here at the lodge playing 2-5. I raise 5-6 of spades under the gun to $25. 4 people call before the small blind puts in a 3-bet to $145. I think all options are on the table. Folding seems very nitty. We're about $4,000 effective. I could call, but I don't really like that option because I'm going to be going out of position multi-way in a huge bloated pot. So I decide to go with option C, and that is turn my 6 high into a bluff and put in a 4-bet. So I 4-bet here to $400. I would not recommend this play, especially in call happy Texas games, but we started the hand with 800 big blinds, which means I can 4-bet a little bit lighter. Given the fact that if he calls, the pot's going to be around $800. We're going to have almost $3,500 left to play for, so there's a lot more playability post-flop when you're playing super deep stack. Folds back over to the small blind who doesn't re-raise, which is good. He decides to make the call. So we're heads up in a 4-bet pot with 6 high. Maybe we can smash this board. 4, 7, 9, 1 spade. We do flop an open-ended straight draw. Not too bad for us. He checks over to me. I bet $275 here like I would with all my big pocket pairs. Ace king and ace queen that I would have in this position. He decides to call, so I can rule out hands like ace king and ace queen. Now I'm pretty sure he has a pocket pair. Probably 10s through pocket queens. So when the turn is a 10 of spades and he checks to me, I do now have a straight draw and a flush draw, but it's a 4-bet pot. There's already so much money in the middle, and I'm pretty sure he has a pair he's not looking to fold. He could even have a set, so I decide to check this one back and try to realize my equity, which I do. The river is the 3 of diamonds. We make the stone cold nuts. We get out of line pre-flop and get rewarded on the river, making the best hand possible in a 4-bet pot, and it gets even better when my opponent leads out into me for $900. I mean, oh my gosh. I look over at his stack. He has $2,500 left. I think there's only one option, and that is to go all in. I Hollywood a little bit, tank for about 30 seconds, and rip it all in. He doesn't think for too long and makes the call. We show the straight, and it is obviously good. We end up taking down over an $8,000 pot here, profiting over $3,000 on this session. A crazy couple hands I played last week at the lodge. Unfortunately, I cannot film every day, so sometimes I miss some big pots, but we are back at it today on a Sunday night. We end up starting a 5, 10, 20 game, buying in for a little over $5,000. let's get started. We get started right away with a premium hand in the small blind. Pocket Jacks, Mr. Big Daddy Chaz, a Texas local who plays on a ton of live streams here in Austin and in San Antonio as well. He opens up the action to $60 in the cutoff. There's a button 3-bet to 175, and I feel like this is a spot I have to be 4-betting or folding, given the fact that it's a late position open, a late position 3-bet, and we're super deep stack. I put in the cold 4-bet to $500. Both of my opponents end up folding. We take down the first pot. This next hand is definitely an interesting one. Fold to the big blind who calls $20. I'm in the straddle with 7-8 suited, a beautiful playable hand. Instead of just checking here, I decide to bump it up, trying to play some big pots in position. I raise to $100. Now the big blind who just called $20 puts in a limp re-raise to $250. This is a fairly common strategy in blind versus blind play in tournaments. Small blind will call, big blind will raise, and the small blind will put in a limp re-raise with sometimes good hands and sometimes trash hands. However, in cash games, it doesn't happen very often, especially given the fact that we're 200 big blinds deep. So I do think he's going to have a pretty strong hand here, probably some big pocket pairs and some big Broadway cards. So I do make the call, heads up, in position, which is 7 deuce deuce, 2 diamonds. We flop top pair, but if he has those over pairs, we are drawing very slim. My opponent continues for $125. I have one choice, and that is to call. Turn queen of spades, and the big blind continues to bet here, $350. I think he can be still bluffing with hands like ace jack suited, possibly ace king suited. If he had tens or jacks, I'm not sure if he would be betting this card. I think he would most likely check. He is beating us now if he has ace queen or king queen, but I don't want to fold just yet. I want to see what happens on the river, so I make the call for $350. Going to the last card, which is a brick, a 4 of clubs. And now the big blind puts out one yellow chip, $1,000. We have second pair in a 3-bet pot facing a $1,000 bet. Seems like a pretty easy fold, right? I'm not sure. This guy is repping a super narrow range of basically only aces, kings, queens, and maybe ace queen. I'm not sure if he would even be taking this sizing with like king queen, maybe queen jack. So I go into the tank for a while now. I am beating some of his bluffs like ace high, some of his total airball bluffs like 9-10 suited, jack 10 suited. I'm losing to those big overpairs. I'm losing to a queen. He's never betting the sizing with a hand like tens or jacks. After thinking for a while, I think I can have a lot more strong hands that I can call with here. So I decided to let this one go, and he later on told me he did turn top pair with a queen, so I guess we made the right fold. Next hand we call a $60 raise in the straddle with 9-10 suited. Go 4 ways to the flop, which we make a flush draw. I check, the action checks all the way around. The turn I bet, I get one caller. In the river I miss, my opponent leads out into me, and I fold, losing a little over $200 in this hand. A few hands later, there's a limp for $20. I have queen 10 offsuit in the cutoff. Decide to ISO raise here to $100. Straddler calls and the limper calls. 3 ways to the flop in position, which is king, king, 3. When it checks to me, I decide to give up and check this one back. The turn is a 10, now giving me a pair, also adding a flush draw and some straight draws. The action checks over to me again. I bet $225. Only the limper makes the call. The river's a 7. He checks, and I just check this one back, and our 10 is good. We take down the pot. The game is definitely not as good as it once was. We're playing short-handed now with king jack. I make it $75. I get a call from the button and a call from the straddle. 3 ways to a jack high board. We make top pair. I bet $80. Both of my opponents make the call. The turn is a deuce. Now bringing a flush draw. There's a lot of cards I don't want to see on the river, so I size up here. I feel like I'm going to have the best hand here a ton of the time. I make it $300. Both of them fold very quickly. After a few hours sticking it out here at the 5-10-20 game, it starts to die out. Not many action players left. Basically, the table is full of good players, so I rack up my chips and head over to a 2-5 game. In Texas, you can match the stack, which is amazing. So I sit down with about $4,000. Table looks good, a lot of money, good bit of action, and they're doing some straddles occasionally. So with about 2 hours left in our session, let's run good. Maybe we can win some big pots. We see that run good right away when we peel back pocket jacks in the big blind. Under the gun makes it $20, folds to me, and I put in a 3-bet to $80. He makes the call, heads up, out of position to a 4 deuce deuce board. Great board for us. I decide to bet $50. Looking back, I think I should be going bigger here, more like 75 or 100. He makes the call. The turn is a deuce, now giving us a full house. I'm almost 100% sure I have the best hand here, and I'm going to size up. If he has pocket 7s, 8s, 9s, 10s, maybe even ace high, he may not fold. So I bet big $225, but this time he decides to let his hand go. I didn't count my chips after the 5, 10, 20 table, but I'm pretty sure I lost a little bit. So I think I'm down about $300 or $400 on the session, but that could change. When we look down at pocket kings, I raised to $35 over a straddle, and now the cutoff puts in a 3-bet to $125. Folds back to me, and I'm going to be putting in a 4-bet here, but a little information on the cutoff player. It's the same player from our Saturday night session where we put in a 4-bet with 5-6 suited, we flopped an open-ended, and made the nuts on the river. So if I put in a 4-bet here, it's not going to look too strong because this guy just saw me 4-bet a day before with 6 high. So I decide to bump it up here to $310. He makes a very quick call. Seeing the first 3 cards in a 4-bet pot with pocket kings, 8, 7, deuce, 2 hearts. Seems like a pretty great board for us. I think he's going to have a lot of pocket 9s through pocket queens, ace king and ace queen suited. We don't have the king of hearts, which means that he could have the king high or ace high flush draw. So I'm not going to down bet here. I bet about half the size of the pot, $300. And now the cutoff puts in a very quick raise to $1,100. Facing a $1,100 raise on an 8-high board in a 4-bet pot with pocket kings, this is obviously a pretty amazing spot here. However, we are beat sometimes here with pocket 7s, pocket 8s, 8-7 suited, or maybe a slow played pocket aces. However, I think most likely what he's going to have here is a hand like pocket 10s, jacks, or queens. He's trying to raise, see where he's at, take control in the hand, and also not let me get there with some crazy 5-6 suited hand like I did the night before. So I contemplate jamming all in here, but he has about $3,000 left. I feel like the best option is to just call and allow him to continue to bluff on the turn if he is bluffing, or overvalue bet those worst pocket pairs, and then I'll just jam all in there. There's not too many bad cards we're looking to see on the turn. 4th card deuce, one of the best cards in the deck. I check, and unfortunately he checks back. The river's an 8 of hearts, now double pairing the board and bringing in that front door flush. If he was raising on the flop with top pair, he's now beating us. If he raised on the flop with a flush draw, he now got there. I contemplate whether I want to lead out on this river or check, and ultimately I decide to check. He instantly checks back and shows pocket queens. I show pocket kings, and I am kicking myself. I should have went all in on the flop or put out a blocker size bet on the river, but we cannot complain. We got super lucky against this guy yesterday, and we coolered him now, kings versus queens. Take down a pretty massive pot here at 2-5. I want some feedback on this hand, so let me know what you guys would do in this situation. Would you go all in on the flop for over $3,000? And if you did just call the flop, what would you do on the river? Would you bet small? Would you bet big? Would you check? I want you guys to pause the video, go down in the comments, and let me know what you would do. Now that you're back at the video after leaving a comment below, I have a surprise for you. Pocket aces on the button. There's an early position raise to 40. The cutoff calls 40. I 3-bet here to $160, and looking back, I think I should be going a little bit bigger. The initial raiser has about $3,000 in his stack, and people do not like to fold pre-flop here in Texas. I think 200 or 225 would have been better. The initial raiser calls $160, and now the cutoff decides not to fold, not to call, but to rip his whole stack in there over $800. He goes all in, and we have pocket aces. Miracle, miracle spot. The cutoff started off by calling $40 and then now goes all in for over $800. We're holding pocket aces, the best hand you can ever get. I don't think a re-raise here is good. I'm fine with playing in position heads up against the initial raiser. So I decide to call. Initial raiser decides to fold. So we are now heads up. The cutoff asks if I want to run it once or twice. We decide on 2 full boards, so we're all in here with pocket aces over a $2,000 pot. Let's hold.
Going twice?
Yeah.
All right. 2 full boards. The suspense is killing me. What's it? Oh my god. Oh, that's drawing the fucking bottom.
Damn, man.
Oh, that's such a cool
man.
Nice and
Oh, sorry, man. Sorry. I thought that was a diamond on the river. I thought we chopped. I didn't mean to react like that. No, I'm sorry.
Looks good. Hey, can I get a 1K from somebody?
I was watching it through here, I'm sorry. The cutoff had a monster pocket kings. I actually thought the river on the second run out was a diamond, so I thought he made a flush, so I felt really bad that I reacted like we chopped when I did win. I ended up apologizing to him, and he seemed like a good sport. Even after getting coolered, we take down another big pot, profiting $1,800 on this session. Shortly after this, we end up racking up our chips, heading to the cage and cashing out for the night. All right, guys, that is it for this one. We spent an entire week here in Austin, Texas, playing at the lodge. The place was jam-packed every single day. Shout out to the staff, the dealers, the management, everybody who worked this week at the lodge. They helped everything run smoothly, even though it was packed full of people. And I gotta say, it is finally good to run good in Texas. Ended up profiting $7,500 just this week. We ran super hot. Aces versus kings, kings versus queens. We held up each time. We rivered a straight and a 4-bet pot to win over an $8,000 pot. We then had to call down with ace queen on the river to win another $7,000 pot. It feels good to run good. $7,500 worth of profit here in Austin. Up next, I'm heading up north tomorrow, 3 hours to Dallas. If you guys remember back in October, I had a pretty rough time in Dallas, spent 5 weeks there, lost over $10,000, ran bad, played bad, in some bad spots, but tomorrow we're gonna try to get our revenge. We're gonna be there for about 2 weeks, making poker videos, playing poker, and hopefully running good and winning some money. If you guys enjoyed this video, hit that like button, subscribe if you're not already subscribed, and then comment down below if you have any questions or anything like that. But that is it for this one. Until next time, I'll see ya.